A lot of people suffer from problems, stiffness and pain in this area, right along the shoulder blade or right along the spine here, as low as the very base of the shoulder blade. A lot of people are stretching it, they're foam rolling their back, they're trying to do all sorts of thoracic stretches, trying to identify this area and try and loosen this up. When in actuality, this area is not the problem. My name is Tom Wilman. I'm from Apex Orthopedic Rehabilitation right here in Wyckoff, New Jersey. We're going to talk about other things that might be causing pain along this area that may not be related to the muscles in the area. Sometimes we talk about in the clinic here is that the location of the pain isn't necessarily the source of the pain. Let's talk about that more. If you're interested in future videos, subscribe. Please place some comments if you have ideas for future videos of things you might be struggling with so we can give you some natural ways to feel a little bit better and move better. Okay, back to the neck. So sometimes these muscles right here, you'll feel soreness, and some people say, well, my levator scap, this muscle that comes off the spine down to the shoulder blade, or my rhomboids are the source of pain. I'm feeling soreness or stiffness. In actuality, what's happening is that the nerves and the disc and all that in the cervical spine right here is irritated, and they're actually referring pain into these muscle bellies, okay? So sometimes that's the connection, and it's often confusing, but that stimulation of those nerve roots from the neck here in that region actually correspond to areas that you have pain along this region. So what we have is the same, let's say, nerves that are coming off here actually supply some of the muscles in this region. So the muscle spasm or soreness is really a symptom of something that's going on at the nerve or the nerve root level. So we have to address, is there something that's kind of irritating the nerves in this area? It might be a loss of neck motion, it might be some weakness of the neck. That's actually the origin of the problem. If we massage and try and loosen up this, we're just really talking about the symptom, not actually the origin of the problem. But the reason why we have it is those nerve roots do supply electrical charge to, from this area to these muscles, basically causing them to contract. When the nerve or the disc, whatever is affected, it affects the way these muscles function. So you can go ahead and massage and do what you want, but if it doesn't stop, it might be we're not addressing really what's going on up at this portion of the neck. So some of the muscles we have here, the levator scapula, which is supplied from the C3, C4 nerve roots. It attaches up in this region, and then it comes down to here like a band. You have the rhomboids, which is more in this region right here, major and minor, and those are actually supplied by the C5 region. You have the supraspinatus and infraspinatus muscle bellies in this region right here. They're provided by the C5, C6. And lastly, you have the subscapularis, which is part of the rotator cuff, that muscle deep in here, and also the latissimus, which attaches high up here on the shoulder and down to the lower back, are really provided by that C6, C7. So who notices phenomenon that there's a connection between something going on at the neck that gives us pain actually in this location? And it was Dr. Cloward, and actually Dr. Cloward called it the Cloward areas, and denoted the areas that we commonly have pain, like in here and along the scapular border here, was actually coming from the neck. And what they did was they actually stimulated the disc segment and associated nerve root in the neck, and especially they actually went through the front area, and they would stimulate the nerve, let's say the C4 disc segment and nerve root. And when they did that, they actually noticed pain in this region. And when they did the C5 nerve root, they found a little lower. C6 nerve root, a little bit lower, and then a little bit lower for the C7. So when they hit that, they consistently reproduced the same pain in this region, and it would actually refer into that area, giving a little bit of muscle soreness. So some people, you'll do massage and exercise, and this reduces the spasm here. If it still remains, we want to look at what's going on at the neck here that might be referring from that region. So where do we start? And we normally start with an evaluation of the cervical spine and the thoracic spine, and we want to see if there's any loss of motion here or at the neck, okay? What I'll commonly do is I'll do a McKenzie cervical evaluation of the neck, and I'll take you through, I'll look for any movement loss at the neck. One of the movements that we look for is any loss of retraction, this movement back here. Some people can't even get past this point, or retraction with extension. So we want to have it so our chin and our forehead are almost parallel with the ceiling. If we have any loss of those two directions, that's generally where I start. And what we'll do is we'll start having you do certain stretches and see by doing, let's say, a cervical retraction or cervical retraction extension repeatedly, is there a reduction of the pain in this area? Okay, we're just trying to see if there's an association where we move the neck, very simply, and we change something here. Even if it makes it feel worse, it gives us an idea of whether the cervical spine, those discs, are maybe the origin of the problem. If we move the neck and there's, first we move the neck and there's no reproduction of pain, every motion we move, nothing really changes in here, good or bad, okay? Then we may be just dealing with strictly a thoracic issue, something on with the muscles and nerves in the thoracic region. But we first take this through a series of repeated movements, whether it be flexion, rotation, whatever we think we need to make sure that the spine isn't giving us any of this pain. If we do these motions or the person has great range of motion at the neck, we're like, wow, she's got, he or she has got wonderful range of motion. Maybe the range of motion loss is not really the problem, or really, the solution is really directly addressing something here, and that happens as well. What we take you through is, I would say there's a few exercises that we commonly give out for people that have pain in these regions. And I would say the two most common ones are a cervical retraction and a cervical retraction with extension, okay? We typically do these in sitting, is typically the better spot for neck problems, and occasionally we'll have people lie down and do these movements, lying in prone or in supine, okay? So the first movement we'll do is, when you start this movement, is really be aware, whatever the pain is, it should never be made worse from this exercise. So if this pain starts dropping down in intensity, or you start noticing that the pain in your scapula region starts moving to the neck, that's typically a better sign, okay? So the first one we'll do is just a cervical retraction. So you want to sit up nice and tall. We want ears at the tip of the shoulder over the hip bones here. And we're going to pull our chin back straight like this. Retraction and release. And then if you feel good, you can add a little bit of pressure with it. So you take your fingers and you push back, retraction, with a little bit of overpressure, and then release. So retraction, little pressure, and release. I'll typically tell people to do this for 1 or 2 sets of 10. If you're doing it at home and you haven't received the formal evaluation, you do these a couple times. See if there's an improvement in motion. If it loosens up the neck and this area, you might be onto something. The second movement is a cervical retraction with extension. So that's basically, I typically do cervical retraction first, and then we'll see cervical retraction, and then we'll look back to the ceiling. If that feels okay, we'll do a cervical retraction with extension and a little wiggle, okay? What we're looking for, and we'll do, let's say, 1 or 2 sets of 10 here, sometimes more if we're not sure, to see if that movement either increases, decreases, or doesn't change it at all. So we want to see, if it's neutral, that's fine. It doesn't tell us it's good as a solution. If it actually drops down, and let's say you have pain along this whole scapula border, or like right here, it starts becoming more focal, or now the pain is moving more up to the neck to where we think the origin is, that's a good sign. But those are 2 exercises that I would start with. Obviously, it doesn't give you the benefit of full evaluation, because not everyone benefits from these. Sometimes things get worse. You want to stop, okay? You shouldn't do them, okay? If you start developing, let's say, shoulder or arm pain or hand pain as you're doing this, that's also a sign that we should stop doing the exercise, okay? It should never make your condition worse. But you got to know where you start. Okay, when I start this exercise, what am I feeling? Oh, I'm feeling some discomfort in here. Okay, good. As we do this, what's occurring here? Okay, are we getting a movement up, and are we feeling less pain in this region when we're doing this movement? If we're onto a good movement, we say, wow, that cervical retraction felt great, or the cervical retraction extension felt great. Our typical recommendation is do 10 to 20 times about every 2 hours. So you get about 5 sessions in a day. And what we find is if you spread it out throughout the day, it typically adds up and helps you maintain your improvement, especially if you start noticing, wow, the pain's dropping down, I'm feeling better, it's not lasting as long, it's not as intense, and I don't notice as frequently. Those are all signs, I like those 3 things, that we're in the right direction. Okay, sometimes it can happen pretty rapidly. We'll have a change in here. Sometimes we got to work at it for at least 2 or 3 days. After 2 or 3 days of doing an exercise that you've picked out and you're not noticing a change, then it's probably not the right exercise. You should see some kind of change if you're good about it. There's other things that influence problems in this area. Sometimes there's links to posture, sometimes it isn't. Sometimes there's another activity you're doing. Sometimes you're sitting too long. There's a lot of things that can give you some problems here. Another thing too, and we'll go into another video, is sometimes we have someone that's got very good range of motion, and we have to add some good strengthening exercises to help them with that part of it. Like I said, most things are multifactorial, meaning there's a lot of reasons why people have pain. This is just looking if there's a mechanical reason, a loss of motion or maybe a loss of strength that's influencing your symptoms, okay? Hopefully that clarifies some things for those people that are just kind of dealing with a lot of upper back spasm or soreness and just isn't getting better. Hopefully this helps you out. If you got something from this, please subscribe, share with some friends that might be having some trouble, and place a comment in the box if you have something that you have a specific question about, and maybe I can clarify it in future videos. Have a great day.